Before I drop the cheat code, I did want to thank today's video sponsor, Squarespace. I've actually been using Squarespace for over 10 years. Their templates and easy-to-use interface make it incredibly simple to create and maintain a professional-looking website without any coding experience necessary. My Squarespace website was an essential part of how I built my photography business. It allowed me to showcase my work, show recent work on my blog, and even receive inquiries from potential clients through my contact form. If you're one of those photographers relying on your Instagram profile as the sole place to share your work and build your photography business, I would really consider making a website on Squarespace. You can visit squarespace.com/Reggie Ballesteros to start a free trial and get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. The cheat code is this. When you see a photo that you really like, especially if it's not some type of fleeting moment, take some time and see if it has an element of motion. Are there people passing by? Is there grass or water? If that's the case, handhold a camera and just record for 20 to 30 seconds, but the longer the better. The reason why this works is because usually when we find something that's worthy to take a photo of, the lighting and the composition elements are all there. We just need something to kind of move inside the frame, as well as maybe have some ambient audio to give a sense of the environment. That is the cheat code. And I know you're probably like, Reggie, we need more than that. We need some kind of like guidance on the settings and the technical approach. Don't worry, I got you here. And I'm going to give you those technical settings without trying to overcomplicate it and try my best to get straight to the point. So for autofocus, we want to make sure that the autofocus is not moving back and forth, because that's kind of like the biggest flag for some type of amateur looking footage is when the autofocus and the focus drifts without the camera operator wanting it to. So I usually use autofocus single, or I switch it to manual focus with peaking. And this is probably the smoothest or the silent way so that autofocus gets to where you want it. You're not going to hear the autofocus noise, especially if you have a louder lens like the 27mm 2.8 on Fujifilm. As for the frame rate, I keep this at 24 frames per second. Specifically, that's 23.976. And I keep it this way because I'm trying to film in real time. I'm not looking to slow down the footage, just getting my foundation for finding a good frame and filming what's in front of me. From there, you're going to have the 180-degree shutter angle rule, which basically means it's going to dictate your shutter speed for optimal kind of realistic motion blur. And that's 1 over double your frame rate. So in case 1 over 24 frames per second times 2, that's a 1 over 48 shutter speed. If your camera doesn't have this, then you can go the closest, so 1 over 50 of a second for your shutter speed. As far as aperture goes, this is really more for either your creative taste or sometimes you're just locked into a specific exposure requirement based on the scene. I tend to have my aperture be stopped down just a little bit unless I really need a shallow depth of field shot, but a lot of the times I'm filming out in bright daylight and I need to stop down the exposure just to get it within a non-highlight clipped exposure level. And along with this, your ISO. So you're going to base your ISO on the exposure of the scene and also the requirements of the type of codec. If you're shooting in log footage, usually those need a native ISO of a lot higher. So for example, F-Log2 on the XS20 is I think ISO 1200 or something like that. But if you're just filming with like classic Chrome, you can film that at the native ISO of like 200, 160, 125 based on the camera that you have. If the scene is too bright, you're going to need an ND filter, especially if you run out of aperture. Like if you stop down all the way to f16 and it's still too bright, then you're going to need an ND filter. And that stands for a neutral density filter, which basically has a darkened element in the front and it's going to darken the exposure to help you bridge the gap to get your exposure within range. It's also useful to have this if you want a shallow depth of field scene, but it's too bright. You can use the ND filter to get that creamy like 1.4, 1.8 aperture. So the big question a lot of people will have is like, how do we stabilize the camera if we're hand holding it? And I think for the most part, if you hand hold it, if you have a camera strap and you just tension it out, even if you don't have in-body image stabilization, if you're trying to be still, it's usually okay. And having a little bit of handheld motion, I feel like it makes it feel more natural. And of course, if you want to opt for camera with in-body image stabilization, that will help with the video being stable as well. As far as audio goes, the only rule that I set for myself is I watch the levels and I try to make sure that the peak of the volume is going to be negative 12 decibels. That's just a rule of thumb that I've learned through DSLR Video Shooter. It's a great YouTube content creator for getting started with filmmaking, so check that out. And that's pretty much it. I don't try to complicate the audio too much. Sometimes I use a Rode VideoMic Go 2 shotgun mic, but most of the time the footage that you're seeing is just the internal mic of the camera. The final step that you need to do is you literally need to put your camera in video mode and just try this out. Experiment, be kind to yourself. I've been experimenting with creating video since 2018, 2017, and I've still got a lot to learn, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And I think it will help you as photographers improve as photographers because of the different aspects that you may have not noticed only looking at a still image. And with that, my name is Reggie Ballesteros. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you loved it, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see my go-to film simulation recipe for video, check out this video over here.